Well, after the TCU loss, this bye week could not have come at a better time. And the first person that needs to get right is the most important position on the field.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is another edition of Locked On SMU here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. I'm Grayson Singleton, and our show today is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Coming up on the show today, we are now officially in that territory where SMU has to win the ACC if they want to get back to the college football playoff. Period. End of story. We'll talk about that. And also a curious development that I found through the last couple of games. Where's RJ Maryland, and why has his usage or utilization been so low this season to start through the first third of it? So we're going to talk about all of that and more, but let's start with this. The bye week for SMU could not have come at a better time. It could not. SMU is reeling defensively. They look a step slow, just slower than everybody else. Obviously, there was the Hail Mary play that Josh Hoover just chucked up there, and somehow Eric McAllister was there and outfoxed 5 DBs to get that ball. You guys know what I'm talking about. Defensive line is starting to get pushed around at the end of games, or not really getting the same push. And, oh, by the way, Kevin Jennings' ankle is not where it needs to be. So the bye week right now could not have come at a better time. But that's just the physical. Then you've got the psychological, right? Coming off of a huge year, you kind of feel like you're in the midst of a letdown right now. Went to the college football playoff, was within inches of winning the ACC championship game, and you're 2-2, and your only 2 wins are against, some pretty crap opponents. Let's be real. So psychologically, you're not feeling the greatest about yourself. The coaching staff has been a little bit up and down. The discipline issues are still lingering from last year. It's just time, even though we're early in the season, we're a third of the way through the regular season slate, it's time for a reset. So today, I'm going to start out a series that we're going to go through the entirety of the week with bye week goals. And our first goal is Kevin Jennings, get right. Just get right with the quarterback, man. And whatever that might be, rest in that ankle, mobility, rehab, ice, whatever. Because Kevin seems like he's limited right now. And when Kevin Jennings is at his best, it's when he can bail out of the pocket, move around, make plays on the run, have the threat of his legs. And we talked about that a couple of episodes ago, going back to last week, how Kevin Jennings' legs have just not been as much involved as you would have forecasted it to be. That's just a reality. Going back to last year, he had a lot more yards. He had a touchdown. He had 5 more carries than he did through 3 games this year. It just, something doesn't look right. And you have the injury, yes, but I also think he needs some time to get back to being him, right? And I think he got part of the way there in the TCU game because he played awesome. He played really good. Did he miss on a couple? Sure. That's just going to be Kevin Jennings. But ultimately, he was the dude that put the team on his back and said, hey, look, I'm going to do my part to try to keep us in this ball game and get us a win here. And, there were certain parts of the team that just didn't show up later on as the game waned. But I think him having the bye week to not only rest up and heal up his body, but also to get back to being the Kevin Jennings that got him here, making plays with his legs, that extra dimension that he brought to SMU's offense that just hasn't been there. And I think that works in conjunction with the coaching staff as well. They got to go back and see, okay, maybe Kevin, as long as he's healthy, because we're not playing a game for 2 more weeks, as long as he's healthy, we do need this extra layer to our offensive attack. We know he can throw the ball downfield and in the intermediate and make the throws toward the sideline. And we know that's a great thing to have in conjunction with our running game with the running backs. But you look at some of the teams that are atop college football right now, and they've got the running quarterback. They've got the element that the quarterback can take it over the top when he can just do it himself. And Kevin Jennings was that last year, but hasn't been that this year. He just hasn't. His rushing totals are down. His attempts are down. His effectiveness is down. He hasn't even scored on the ground, which is mind-boggling to me. He doesn't look like a quarterback right now that is accurate and mobile when the play breaks down and can just go in there and make a play. He just hasn't been that. So I think the bye week comes at a great time, one, because of his health, but two, because of what's in his head. And there is a such thing as overcorrection. And obviously, we all wanted him to be a better pocket thrower. That needed to happen. He needed to be able to see things better from the pocket, process that information, and deliver a ball more accurately from the pocket. But what has also come with that is the special stuff kind of went by the wayside. And it's not as if Kevin Jennings is playing terrible, but it's not as if he's been a difference maker. I looked this up yesterday. He is 70th in the country in QBR. Now, is Kevin Jennings, even remotely close to that in terms of where you would rank quarterbacks in the country? Absolutely not. No doubt. He's not even close to that. But he's got to get back to playing more of his game. And I think he's capable of it. I think he will. But I think it's going to also come at the same time as his health gets back. So bye week goal number one needs to be make sure we get the quarterback back to where he needs to be. Get him back healthy, because he's taken a lot of spills on that ankle. It was the same ankle he hurt against Missouri State, and he's just going to have to be able to rest that. But I think this team gets better as the competition gets harder if Kevin Jennings is Kevin Jennings. You don't need 80% of your quarterback, not just with his health. We've seen a lot of teams win a lot of games when their quarterback is not 100% health-wise. But when he's not 100% in the mental framework of himself, that's when you start to see this kind of stuff, start to adversely affect the team. That's when the quarterback's in his head, when the quarterback's not fully being himself, that's when it starts to permeate to the rest of the results that affect the team. So can Jennings, in conjunction with the coaching staff, get back to, okay, you've improved as a pocket thrower, you've improved as a processor of information, you are more accurate this year than you were last. You're still not perfect in that regard, but we've made strides. Now let's get you back to this other thing. And if we can marry the two, you can be an even more dynamic quarterback, and maybe we can score some more points on some more possessions, because with as bad as the defense has been, that wouldn't hurt. It would not hurt. So that's my bye week goal number one. That's what I want to see for SMU going through this bye week, is let's see if we can make even more improvements, not just physically, but also psychologically and mentally with our signal caller, who can be really damn good. You just got to get him back to that spot where he was playing a little bit more loose. Coming up next, after the loss to TCU, SMU has no margin for error. They've got to win the ACC. Can they? Will they? And how confident should we be? All that and more coming up next on Locked On SMU. Hey, this episode today is brought to you by Game Time. College football is back, and you guys know I love college football. I could not be more excited. I love the tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands. There's just nothing like it. I was at a big-time game this weekend, and it was awesome. But let's be real. Getting tickets to these games can feel more like a battle than what the players are doing on the field. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. Yep, you know what I'm talking about. But that's why I love Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to you, the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices. With no surprise fees, what you see is going to be what you pay. Hey, one of my favorite things about Game Time is that you can see what your view of the field is going to look like from the seat before you buy it. That's right. Like, you can look at it on your phone and it'll tell you, all right, here's what you're going to be looking at. And it is so accurate. I've used this a ton of times when I've gotten tickets. It's awesome. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. We're also brought to you by Square. This episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home. Whether it's the local sports bar that's packed out on game day, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving your community for decades. These are places that bring people together. And when neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And here's one local spot that I love called Lemon Street Tacos Taqueria. Now, if you love street tacos, if you love Mexican food, this is a place that you have got to try. It's not expensive. It's right there on Lemon Avenue in Dallas. You guys know where I'm talking about. Street tacos, just that just authentic Mexican feel that I absolutely love and crave. It's one of the spots I'd like to go to when I'm back home in the DFW area. But they're one of those places that are on Square. And Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. Back here on Locked On SMU, I'm Grayson Singleton. And remember, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate all you guys that listen on the audio side, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And give me a follow on Twitter at Gray_Singleton2. Would love to interact with all of you there. So now SMU is in a situation where kind of got to win the ACC or else you're not going back to the college football playoff. Period, point blank in the story. Now, the bad news is that you still got to go to Clemson on the road. You still have to go to Boston College, which that one's, a little bit leery because, again, cross-country traveling in the middle of fall/winter can be a recipe for disaster. You got Cal on the schedule. You got a lot of you have a lot of room for unpredictability. And what also falls into the category of unpredictability happens to reside within SMU's team because we have no idea what we're going to get week to week. Zakai Barker and Kilgore didn't play a whole heck of a lot against TCU. They're still working their way back. That showed at certain points. Secondary, their tackling can come and go, and I'm kind of being generous by putting it like that. So there's still a lot of unknown with this SMU team going into conference play. There's a lot unknown with a lot of things that are uncontrollable, like injuries. So that's the bad news when you have such a small margin for error, and really not much margin for error because you got to go win this conference. And the teams that you're not playing are really good, a la Florida State is really what I'm alluding to there. So Florida State has entered itself into the picture. Oh, by the way, Georgia Tech. Can't forget the Yellow Jackets, who just look awesome. They look really good. So they're going to be a problem too. But again, Georgia Tech already has one win over Clemson. But for the most part, when it comes to ACC play, everybody starts 0-0. I mean, it doesn't matter. Automatic qualifier, you get an automatic bid, and you still have some chances to enhance your resume. Now, also one more thing on the bad thing, though. Clemson seems to have lowered itself in terms of how it can help you, expand your resume and make it look better. So Clemson being 1-3 doesn't really work in your favor. It almost makes that game a lose-lose because if you lose, now you're behind the 8 ball again in terms of getting back to the ACC championship game. And if you win it, it's going to be like, well, you beat Clemson, which used to sound pretty good, but I really don't know what they are this year. Now, here's the good. Here's the good side of it. You do have a national contender coming into your house in Miami. And look, if you wanted the seasons between Miami and Clemson to shake out any kind of way, you probably would have rather had it like this. have the better of the two coming into your house, and then you still have to go to a raucous environment, but the team is not very good. Maybe they improve, by the way. Maybe they're on an upward trajectory by the time we get to that game against Clemson, and maybe you beat them on the road, which is still going to be considered a highly impressive win. Just look at how LSU is viewed this year. That's still a very impressive win going on the road to Clemson. So you do have that. And that's the thing with the good news. There are resume enhancers on here. Going to Boston College is going to be a win on the road if you're able to secure it. So you have the opportunities on the road, and you've got a really, really prime opportunity that's coming into your backyard. And Miami's going to be physical. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They've got excellent wide receivers. The Malachi Tony kid is awesome. CJ Daniels is good. And Carson Beck as their quarterback is playing as good as any quarterback in the country right now. So you're going to have your work cut out for you, but you're going to be at home. And you're going to get a Syracuse team whose quarterback, Steve Angeli, blew his Achilles. So, unfortunate, but that's going to hamper them. So maybe your defense starts to get a little bit of confidence after that. You pull up the rest of the ACC schedule between now and the Miami game. Syracuse, Stanford, at Clemson, at Wake Forest. If you can go 2-0 in that road stretch there, that's a difficult road stretch. I don't know how the committee is going to weigh that exactly when it's back-to-back games and you're going cross-country, but they could weigh that a little bit more heavily in your favor if you go 2-0. And then you've got the game against Miami. Then you're at Boston College, home for Louisville, at Cal. There is still a path if SMU improves themselves that they can get back to the ACC championship game. Because again, everybody starts out 0-0. And this is why you should be glad that the bye week is where it is. You've got a ton of tape to review. You have a ton of evidence of what you are good at and what you're not good at. So you can figure it out in 2 weeks before we start ACC play. And then you've got a Stanford team that just isn't good. You got 2 games at home against teams who are going to either, 1, be handicapped because of injury, and 2, aren't good. And that's before you go on the road to Clemson. So there is still a lot of positive here without me going out of my way to pump you a ray of sunshine. That's not what I'm intending to do here. I wouldn't insult you guys like that. So there is still a way that you can improve and get better and gain some confidence for the stretch run ahead, of which you damn near have to be perfect. Because there are 2 other teams that we didn't think. Some of y'all thought I underestimated Georgia Tech at the beginning of the year, and I probably did. But ain't none of y'all thought Georgia Tech was going to be this good. Let's be honest here. Florida State, we all were wrong on Florida State. They showed that very early. Cool. I am more than okay being wrong about that. Because I didn't see a team that was led by a 2-10 team from a year ago that was led by Tommy Castellanos, who seemed to be running his mouth at will and saying all sorts of nonsense. Well, he backed it up, but I did not think that team was going to be as good as Florida State appears to be. So I'll take the L on that one. But in terms of controlling your controllables, you still have the opportunity to put forth a resume heading into the postseason that looks pretty good. Will it be the greatest thing ever? No. Will it get you in if you were on the fringes? You'd probably have to have some help. But you got an opportunity. You got 2 really good opportunities, and you've got a good opportunity with Syracuse. The path is still ahead of them, but over the bye week, if you correct the things that need to be corrected, control the controllables, you can now start to put yourself on an upward trajectory to where you have confidence and you have direction going into the marquee games. Because that stretch of Clemson, Wake Forest, and Miami will tell you a lot about whether or not you have a chance to win the conference. And look, with the way SMU's strengths shake out, you telling me they can't compete with Florida State or they can't compete with Georgia Tech? I'll take my chances. I'd be down to take my chances on that. But Got to make sure you correct the things that you got to correct. Coming up next, one thing I noticed from this first third of the season, where the hell is RJ Maryland? We'll talk about that on the other side. Keep it here. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Plus picks Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. From footwork to breathwork, athletes, they sweat all the details, and Mazda brings this same intention to how we craft every single model. And you can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Nappa leather upholstery that just feels and looks outstanding. So like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible just becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, let's close this out with a conversation about RJ Maryland, a guy who I was highly, looking forward to, highly confident that he was going to come back and he was going to be an impact player. And it really just hasn't been the case. Now, did we maybe overestimate RJ Maryland coming back and what sort of an impact he had? Sure. But if I was to tell you through 4 games, Maryland would have 9 catches for 76 yards and 1 touchdown and a long of 14. If I were to tell you that and combine it with the reports that he had shed the red jersey by the final week of fall camp, the two wouldn't really add up. Now, the emergence of Jalen Cooper, I think, does have something to do with it, even though Jalen Cooper only had 1 catch against TCU. Matthew Hibner's been doing his thing, but Matthew Hibner, by the way, has even fewer catches than RJ Maryland does. He has 8 for 49 yards and only 1 touchdown. So this whole thing is really, really curious. And here's my take on this. I just don't think the mobility is all the way back. That's the only thing I could come up with, because he's on the field. He's on the field. Hibner's on the field as well. So the tight end is available, but the tight end just has not been used in a way we thought it was going to be used. If you go back to 2024, let's see if we can make some kind of comparison here. Through the first 4 games of 2024, RJ Maryland had a game where he had 8 catches for $162 against Nevada, 1 catch in the Houston Christian game. Okay, fine. Like, they blew the doors off of them. 1 catch in the BYU game. But then in the 4th game, he had 3 catches for 16 yards, which gives us a grand total of 13 catches for just shy of 200 yards. Something's missing here. Something's missing. And it's not as if, there's a lot of off-target throws that are to him. That's not the case either. He literally is obsolete. He's obsolete. And I just don't think that there's a couple things here. There's a couple things here that I think are working in conjunction for why RJ Maryland just isn't a focal point, a featured point even of the offense. One, he looks slower, and he looks like sometimes he's laboring out there. He's slower. He's not getting down the field as quickly. He's not stretching the vertical seam like he was last year. But also, the wide receivers around him are doing a hell of a job. And I know we want to see RJ, and I know he switched a position, which may be a third factor into this, is that he's playing more in the slot. He's not coming, off the inline as a tight end, and therefore, there might be something that's, just hasn't translated. But the fact that Romello Brinton's been doing his thing, as has Jalen Cooper. Jordan Hudson came back this week and, looked pretty solid. There was 1 touchdown that he probably should have made. Ymir Knight's in the fold. And the team is also, again, reliant heavily on the run game, which is what they do best. I just think there's a lot of factors around him that are limiting his production. But I do think SMU is going to have to use him in order to take their offense over the top. There are two things that are going to make SMU's offense that much more dangerous. That is the more consistent use of a tight end coupled with Kevin Jennings' mobility, which we talked about earlier on in the episode. And it doesn't help them that both of those two, when it comes to athleticism and mobility, one's coming off of an ACL and one now has an ankle to deal with. So you're kind of hamstrung there in those two regards. But of all the factors that I just listed out, I think there is a controllable here. It's that you got to get this guy the ball. You got to make sure and make him a target. You got to make him something that is actually being included in the offense, because right now I just do not think that that's the case. I just don't. I have no reason to believe that that is the case right now. So red zone, red area where SMU has not looked good, high red all the way to low red, the matchup nightmares have to be deployed. If he's right. If he is right, you got to deploy him. You got to deploy Hibner, who got a touchdown in the red area against TCU, but you got to do that more often. You just have to. If he's not healthy, though, that answers the question very simply. It does. He's just not healthy, and because of it, his quickness and his speed it hasn't gotten back. But the way I look at it is, dude was clear for contact probably earlier than I thought he was going to be, earlier than a lot of us thought he was going to be. And something now is missing with the offense, because not only do the numbers look down, correct me if I'm wrong, offer a dissenting opinion, but he just doesn't look like he's there. I see RJ Maryland's on the field, but he's not the mismatch focal point that he could have been. And to me, if you're going to take this offense over the top, because this offense is going to need any kind of boost and every kind of advantage that it can, because right now you're having problems stopping people from scoring. He has got to be more of a factor. He just has to be, whether it's decoys or just running routes so that the defense pays more attention and comes off something else. I mean, I look at the broadcast and they're hardly even mentioning him. They're hardly mentioning, oh, he ran this clear out, defense paid attention to him, wide receiver came up underneath. Like, it's just not there. So, again, another bye week conversation too. Got to figure out how to get him more involved. You just have to, because coming off of what he did last year, I mean, there's not a stretch where he had fewer catches in a 4-game span. It's just not there. Whether it's his first 4 games, his last 3 games, which he had 11 catches, it's just not there. So you got to get back to getting the ball to RJ Maryland if you're going to completely unlock this offense and completely resurrect this season. That's the way I look at it. And can it be done? Sure. But you have to make a concerted effort over the bye week to reevaluate that and to fix it going forward. All right, that'll do it for Locked On SMU here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thanks for making me your first listen of the day. And remember, keep an eye out coming Thursday, college football kickoff. Locked On and Fire TV present your ultimate college football weekly preview, hosted by Drake Toll and alongside AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson and former college star Jesse Holley and the rest of the local experts around this network. It's a college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch college football kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. So be sure you check that out. Come back with us tomorrow. We'll continue our series of bye week goals, number 2 tomorrow. And we're going to go to the defensive side of the ball come Wednesday. So we'll talk to you tomorrow. Take it easy, everybody.